Remote online notarization is quickly becoming a must-know process for attorneys, but with new technology and regulations, it can bring up a lot of questions and concerns. How do you verify a client's identity remotely? What technology is legally compliant in Wisconsin? And how do you ensure security and privacy for your client's sensitive documents? In today's discussion, we're breaking down the RON process specifically for attorneys, tackling your questions, addressing potential pitfalls, and helping you navigate this digital shift with confidence. Let's dive into what you need to know to make RON work smoothly and securely for your practice. Hi, I'm Peter Kramer, Digital Communications Coordinator with the State Bar of Wisconsin, and I'm joined by Cheri Hipenbecker, General Counsel for the Knight-Berry Title Group, and a presenter on this topic at the upcoming State Bar of Wisconsin Solo and Small Firm Conference, October 17th to the 19th at the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells. Welcome, Cheri.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Peter. My name is Cheri Hipenbecker. I'm General Counsel with the Knight-Berry Title Group. We are a real estate title and settlement company with offices throughout the Midwest, a ton in the state of Wisconsin, some in Minnesota, Michigan, Florida, and one office in Texas. And what I do on a normal basis every day, I get to answer questions to try to solve problems.
All right. Well, that's what we like to do with these videos too. So this is going to be perfect. Really, just in brief, can you kind of give us a quick overview about your upcoming session at the Wisconsin Solo and Small Firm Conference?
Of course. There's going to be a two-part session on this. We're going to be talking about remote online notarization, which is RON, R-O-N, remote online notarization, and RIN, which is remote ink-side notarization. It's all about how do you notarize documents without being in person, sitting next to each other. Peter, you and I are chatting right now, but I'm located in Wind Lake, Wisconsin. You're located some other place. We should be able to facilitate the execution, signing, and notarization of documentation using these communications like we have right now. So there's the two different components: remote online notarization, which is for remote notarization of all documents other than estate type planning documents in the state of Wisconsin, and the remote ink sign notarization, which is estate planning documents that can be signed in a remote session like this. Okay.
And so you kind of answered my next question, which is going to be, what is the remote online notarization process, or RON? But tell me a little bit about, like, what does that process look like in Wisconsin?
Sure. It's a beefed up Zoom. So when you enter a Zoom, you click a little hyperlink and we join. Well, I don't know you're necessarily Peter Kramer. It's nice that you put your name Peter Kramer on the lower part of your screen. But do I know you're Peter Kramer? Have I seen your identification, your government issued ID, your passport, or your driver's license? Have you gone through any credential analysis so I can confirm you are in fact Peter Kramer by looking at maybe some land records, tax records, some electric bills, etc., answering questions? When I answer the questions for these remote online notarizations, I get questions about my maiden name is Hagen, my last name is Hipenbecker, and my sister's last name is now Langenecker. So I get these goofy questions about Hagen, Langenecker, Hipenbecker. That's a lot of fun to say. We go through those additional layers of protection before you're able to join the session for remote online notarization, because we're doing identity validation and verification in addition to joining onto a secure setting to be able to sign documents.
Okay. And so how then is identity verified remotely for remotely located individuals, and like, what should attorneys consider to meet the kind of the required standards?
So the standards are different if you're doing a remote online notarization, which is all documents being notarized other than estate planning type documents in the state of Wisconsin, versus remote ink side notarization. I focus on remote online notarization because I'm in the real estate settlement world, so we sign deeds and mortgages and easements and such. So I'm going to focus on that. The other presenter in this presentation is going to talk about remote ink sign notarization and how you can validate. For remote online notarization, how do we validate? We use KBAs, which is knowledge-based authentication questions. What I was talking about, your credential analysis, that we're talking, hey, your last name is now Hipenbecker, but you used to be a Hagen, and there's somebody named Langenecker who might be located in some state. How are you related? And we're going to actually show you a live presentation of me going into a session for remote online notarization, answering those type of validation questions. There are 5 questions that have to be answered, 3 of which have to be answered correctly in a matter of 2 minutes. You get 2 shots at that. If you don't get them right, boom, you're out of the session. If you do, then you go into the next component where you have your government issued ID that's a scan both the front side and the back side, and there's a validation on the back end that's done through some, I don't know what it does. It's, the techie people do that type of stuff.
Okay. Well, so that's actually kind of leads into my next question, which is about the technology requirements. What standards kind of must be met? And do you have any suggestions for attorneys participating in this process?
Sure. The Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions is the government regulator for notaries, including remote online notaries in the state of Wisconsin. If you go onto their website, which is wdfi.org, there's a ton of information about what platforms can be utilized that have been approved by the Remote Notary Council. I'm a member of that. We go through and we have platforms for remote online notarization that get presented in front of us when we meet. We either say, yes, you're good. No, you're not good. You need to meet certain standards. The ones that are listed on the DFI's website, those are the companies that you can utilize to work with, either to be your own remote online notary or to engage a party that can do that on your behalf.
Okay. And then along similar lines, are there requirements for recording or retaining remote online notarization sessions?
Yes, 7 years. The actual recording needs to be retained. And if you're in a law firm, when you decide I'm going to use whatever platform you're going to use that's been approved by the Department of Financial Institutions, the Remote Notary Council, you want to talk to that platform and say, hey, do you do the recordings and do you retain them? Or does that get pushed over to me and I have to retain them on my own? And what if our relationship breaks down? What if, I'm with company company one, and I terminate that 3 years from now and you have a 7-year requirement? Well, now does that company one still retain those recordings for the next 4 years? Or do they push it over to you? Those are the kind of questions that the law firm should be thinking about on the retention requirements.
Okay. Are there any documents that cannot be remotely notarized? And are there special considerations for certain types of documents?
Yes. As I indicated before, remote online notarization is for all documents that need to be notarized, other than estate planning documents, wills, trusts, most power of attorney. We're going to talk about that specifically in the session and looking to Chapter 140 of Wisconsin statutes, which was new in 2020. And thinking about that, I believe it was 2020, was like 2 weeks before we had COVID lockdown is when we had this law put into effect. Or maybe it was 2 weeks after. I can't even remember, because boy, that was a fun couple of weeks there.
Yeah.
But look, we'll talk about that in the session, the specific documents that can be used using remote online notarization, like I just described, or the other one that Kathy previously will be describing, which is remote ink-side notarization.
Right. And then finally, my last question to you is really just how do you have any advice, I guess, for attorneys who are advising clients on this process to kind of ensure that they understand it?
Sure. Come to this session. Peter, come on. You just laid it out. And then you'll find out the answer to that.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It.
Come to the session. Okay. Well, we'll put in that final plug then for the Wisconsin Solo and Small Firm Conference, October 17th to the 19th in Wisconsin Dells at the lovely Kalahari Resort. Come see Cheri Hipenbecker and learn all about this process, which is a major development for attorneys. So I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Peter.